Carly Barnett. She continues our team coverage tonight. Carly, today's verdict, it is a massive gut punch to Georgia Republicans loyal to Trump. What is the mood? Have you spoke to people? What are they saying?
Sean, at this point, we have not spoken to any Georgia officials. However, we have seen an outpouring of social media posts that we have seen. Now, the general consensus is basically that this is all politically motivated, right? They say that this is the result of a biased court, a biased judge, etc. And we saw a statement from former Georgia Senator Josh McKoon. He is now chairman of the Georgia GOP. He issued a lengthy statement that says, in part, today's outcome was preordained by a partisan judge and prosecutor who have critically damaged public confidence in our criminal justice system, perhaps irrevocably. Republicans should not have to fear being in jurisdictions that elect Democrats who will prosecute them for the crime of being Republican. But that is what has happened today, end quote. Now, Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones also took to the social media platform X to share his thoughts. He called it a miscarriage of justice and that they would stand by former President Donald Trump in this fight. Further, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, she said that this was the result of, quote, radical leftists and deep state operatives. She went on to say that there is nothing that they feared more than another Trump presidency. Of course, we are going to continue to make our reaches and see more of these statements from our local elected officials here in Georgia about what they have to say. Of course, we are live outside of the Fulton County Courthouse, where we know former President Donald Trump has his own case that's still pending. No trial date has been set for that yet. Live in downtown Atlanta, Carly Barnett, Atlanta News First.
And Carly, there's so many more questions and answers at this hour. Trump's sentencing is set for July 11th. That's just 4 days before the Republican National Convention. This is uncharted territory. Trump has already blasted out a fundraising campaign. He has called this rigged and disgraceful. I took of social media. His base seems like they are committed to still financially supporting him.
Yes, that certainly seems to be the case based on all the statements that we have seen so far. At this point, we have not seen any statements that said that they do not support the former president in his fight to regain that office again come November.
All right, Carly, thank you. Live there in downtown Atlanta. Also, Sean, there are reports right now that one of his fundraising websites has crashed. That's allegations we're working to confirm right now just from that firestorm of support on social media. This tonight from Georgia Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. We just heard Carly speaking about it. She expresses how she feels about the New York jury's decision. She tweeted an image of the American flag upside down, a symbol of freedom and rebellion.